everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast, powered by Game 7 Baseball, Game7Baseball.com. Right in the middle of the thick of the winter off season. And today on the show, we continue our GAC previews. We have Coach Mark Reeder from Liberty High School, the Eagles. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, man.
Glad to be
enjoyed
here.
the conversation last year. Got out to the squad last year with you guys playing Holt, I think it was, right?
Yeah, that was I think early conference matchup.
Yeah, it was a good game too.
Great game. Beautiful day, beautiful weather. Unfortunately, we came out on the wrong end, but couldn't ask for anything better in terms of a matchup. It was
the pitching was good.
Pitching was great. Two lefties getting after it.
I remember that was a lot of fun. This year, you guys are coming off a slow start last year, but you finished very well. You got above 500. You were 19-18. The 3-7 in the Central. But I thought you guys played a lot better down the stretch than you did early.
Definitely. The Central's tough. I think a lot of times, when people talk about the GAC, it's the South kind of gets all the publicity, and rightfully so. Obviously, it's loaded as well.
Sure.
But up and down the GAC Central the last couple of years, we've sent 3 teams in the last 3 years to a Final Four, with South twice and East once. So there's certainly no slouches, and it's tough to win ball games when you're facing the type of pitching that we're seeing, and didn't come out on top, but there were a lot of games where we were competitive either throughout, or it's a tight ball game and something happens kind of late, and we unravel a little bit and you get beat. But that's baseball. But again, finish strong, finish over 500, get a district win against Troy, which was a big win for us, because they had kind of beaten us around earlier in the season, a couple of weeks prior to that, and they were hot. Coach Rogers had them rolling, and big win, and then took our shot with Howell and came up a little bit short. Yeah.
The one of the things, too, is like you said, the Central, it's not going to be any better. I think Dane Goff is doing a great job with Washington over there. South is reloaded. East, offensively, I think they're going to be really good. Mm-hmm. You've got, my mind just went.
North.
Yeah. Zumwalt North. Going to be solid again. I think they're going to come back. They played good baseball last year, and like you said, up and down the Central, and then Holt is going to be good again as well. You got Hosack back, you got Lassiter behind the plate. How do you navigate through a conference? I mean, when you get into conference play, it really does steal you guys towards district play, doesn't it?
It does, for sure. I think it helps playing in the Troy tournament right off the bat, some quality competition, and we can kind of figure out in that first week or two kind of what we're going to look like going into conference play, which really we actually start conference play the second week with North.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a quick start to that. But the competition kind of throughout our schedule throughout the year prepares us not only for conference play, but then as you get into the postseason, we've seen quality arms in and out of the conference. So by the time we get to the end of the season, there's no real surprises. We know what we're going to see from teams through scouting or through talking to other coaches. Our schedule pays off. Sometimes a record at the end of the year might not look great, but you're battle tested and you've played some quality opponents and you've seen some quality arms. And, as long as you're progressing, you can be ready to make a little run in the postseason.
I remember in, I think it was 2019, might have been 19, maybe the year before. DeSmet, they won the state championship, and they were 15-15 at the end of the regular season.
Right. Yeah, they had 2 arms that were as good as anybody in the area, and their defense came around, their offensive came around, and that's kind of what you always hope. Now, you don't want to be 14 or 15 and 20 going into the postseason, but if you're playing good teams and you're battling and you're competing and you're finding ways to win, you hope that there's a light at the end of the tunnel there.
Exactly. You've got, I think you got a pretty good roster coming back. I was, as I'm looking through these things, we're going to look at returning seniors and start talking pitching here first. You've got Holman, Snurbush, Jung coming back. These three guys look really good at the top of your rotation.
Yeah, we're excited about them. I would say we're excited about our pitching staff in general. We have a lot of depth, probably more so than we've had the last 2 years. Yeah. We thought we were going to be pretty deep last year. We lost Seth, and then obviously we didn't have Ty, who we were kind of hoping at the end of the year. But Braden and Alex, stepped up. They were big for us last year, and we were anticipating what we got out of Schnurbush. Alex kind of came out of nowhere for us, and not that we weren't expecting him to be a good contributor for us.
Sure,
but he was flat out dominant for the majority of the season, and he threw some big games for us. The game he threw against Troy in the district, the first round of districts, was kind of the epitome of his entire season. He was just an absolute bulldog for us. Not the most overpowering stuff, but just a guy that is just going to go compete until you take the ball away from him or the game is over, and as he's a job's not finished kind of guy. Until the job's done, he wants the ball, and he just goes out and competes his butt off.
I love that. And we everybody oohs and ahs, and it's fantastic. You got those guys that, are 90, 88 to 90 in and around the GAC and all that kind of stuff. But if you've got a staff that knows how to get guys out that can compete, you're going to win a lot of ball games.
100%. Sometimes it's almost more enjoyable as a coach just watching those guys that maybe don't have the electric stuff, and they're just outwilling their opponents, and they're just saying, hey, you know what, I'm not letting this guy beat me, and then I'm not letting the next guy beat me, and then I'm just going to keep going after hitters. And then on top of that, obviously those type of guys, you got to rely on your defense a little more.
Absolutely.
We played really good defense when Alex pitched for us last year. Hopefully we can play good defense when everybody pitches for us. And that's not a knock on our kids, but it's just, if we're going to go where we want to go, we're going to have to play better defensively consistently.
I think that's the challenge at the high school level. I believe this very much. When you start talking about youth coming up through there and what, You even watch at the collegiate level, you see guys, you still see errors made and those things. I think defense and being able to really zero in that full 7 innings, keeping that focus defensively to make every play, and you get some difficult plays. It's kind of funny. You'll see that kid make that outstanding play and then boot the next one that's right to him.
Right.
And those are just focus things, aren't they?
It is. And, I think everybody likes the pitchers want to light up the radar guns. Mm-hmm. The hitters want, the exit velo and the launch angle. And sometimes it's just about playing catch. Can you field it and throw the ball across the diamond and hit a guy in the chest? And if you can do that more times than not, you're going to play pretty clean defense. The spectacular plays are nice. Everybody likes the diving catches and the sliding stops, and just field the ground ball and throw it over to first base and let's go hit. Let's get out of here. Let's save the extra pitches for our, maybe that's the difference between a pitcher going 5 and getting to the 7th inning. Maybe now you don't have to go to your bullpen as early because your pitcher's not running pitch count up.
Absolutely. Saves your bullpen. You get to that next game, especially when you're playing maybe 3-4 games in a week, right?
For sure. Yeah, there's times, you get to Friday or even a doubleheader Saturday and maybe your starter's in trouble and you're looking around thinking, well, we had to burn up some of these other guys earlier in the week, and now you're handcuffing yourself a little bit. But that's also the fun part of coaching too, is trying to mix and match and figure out, make those decisions. Sometimes it'd be nice to look down and see a few more arms on the bench than maybe what you have. Right. But you make the best of it.
Now, looking at some of the juniors here, pitching wise, I just saw some kids that contributed last year. Bryce Haynes, you had Ethan Griffith that I saw that had put some innings up for you guys. Where do you see them?
Yeah, I think those two guys are going to give us. So Bryce was also our starting right fielder as a sophomore.
Okay.
And Ethan didn't see much time defensively or at the plate, but he's going to be in the mix for shortstop and possibly second base, depending on how things shake out, which I'm sure we'll get to here soon. But those two guys definitely were big-time contributors for us as sophomores, which is something that's always positive to know you have them for another couple years, and they'll be a year better and a year older, and hopefully hit that kind of growth spurt and give us some quality innings this year.
That's 5 guys deep right there, just in that thought process. Who else you got there that we haven't seen yet?
So a couple other seniors that saw some innings last year as juniors. Lincoln Rockette, who he's a basketball kid playing basketball right now. Another tall, we were talking 6'5" guy that I have to, hurt my neck looking up at when I talk to. He probably threw 15, 20 innings for us last year, and he struggled early on, but kind of as the season went on, he kind of found his groove and kind of found a little relief role for us that we're excited to get him back and see him as a senior. Noah Keener, who threw some for us as well. Noah's just a competitive kid. Not the most talented, sorry, Noah, but he competes.
Coach still loves you, bro.
I do, and he knows that. Football kid, just a hard worker, just a great teammate. He's the first one. If there's a foul ball, he's hopping up to get a foul ball. He's filling in the pitcher's mound after the game. Just a team guy that's
dugout
you
guys.
love to and you have to have those kids. Everybody wants to be the guy that's starting, or everybody wants to be the guy in the lineup. But those guys that kind of have a role and are role players for us are just as important as the Holmans or the Schnerbushes or the Alexes.
Yeah. I always like to start pitching. That's where, boom, that's where the game starts. The pitch is thrown. Defensively, you made mention of a couple things there. You have some kids coming back for you. Defensively, in those spaces, where are you looking at? How you fill in those holes? You had some kids that graduated last year that were playing up the middle for you.
Yep.
You had, the catcher behind the plate. I'm trying to,
Peyton Braille.
Yep. And, so he's gone. I know you got Jake Greer, who's a catcher.
Yep, Jake's back.
Really good.
Jake's a stud. There's no doubt about it. And he will be, he should be our number one catcher. And I say should. We have another junior, Easton Gain, that was our JV catcher last year that there's not a ton of drop-off. If Jake needs a day off behind the plate and is going to DH, we can throw Easton in there, and we would feel just as comfortable as we do with Jake. Easton could also potentially be first baseman guy, could possibly DH for us as well. But those two will be the two guys behind the plate. There's some young kids that we're excited about for the future as well. But those two are going to get, if I had to guess, those two will get predominantly the most innings behind the plate.
It's always good to get a breath for your catcher.
For sure.
You're
playing 4, 5, 6 games a week. And not that those kids can't handle it. They don't want,
right.
Jake's going to say, I don't want to come out. I want to catch. But, looking long term, because he's going to catch a lot of games in the summer and he plays in the fall. So just kind of to manage that as well. And, like I said, we have a guy behind him that's just as capable. So let's give him a chance and let's let Jake DH and save his legs a little bit. And
I love that.
Roll him out there and see how it goes.
And if you're fresh, you're thinking, hitting wise too. That keeps your legs fresh for hitting as well.
Definitely,
especially late in the season.
If
you're going to make a push.
Right, and as the year goes on, it gets hot. You're playing, 4:15 in the afternoon, and it can be a scorcher, and it's your fourth game in 4 days, and guys are getting wore out. So it's nice to have that option of throwing somebody else back there.
Absolutely. I always like, up the middle, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So you got your pitching, you got your catcher. Where are you at in the middle, from infield to outfield?
So we return Austin Capizzi at second base. He won the second base job pretty early last year in the season, and probably about halfway through the year moved into the leadoff spot and did a great job for us. He's one of those kids that just lives in the weight room. I mean, when you see him, he's got tree trunks for legs. I mean, and unfortunately, with the style now and the short shorts, that the kids are wearing, the thighs are out, and he's very proud of him, as he should be. But we're glad to have him back in the mix at second base. He could also potentially move to short, depending on how things shake out there. If I had to write a lineup today, he'd be at second base, and he would probably be in the leadoff spot for us.
He played well for you last year. I remember watching him.
He did.
He made plays. And, you got to love that.
And he finds ways to get on base. It's not I would say kind of an old school throwback leadoff hitter. He's not afraid to get hit by a pitch. He's not afraid to work a count. And, I think he finished the year around 25 walks in the leadoff spot. So he finds ways other than hitting the baseball to get on base. And
walks
as a leadoff guy,
get
on base for us. But he did a nice job for us, and, we're glad to have him back. As far as short goes, I would say there's kind of 3 guys in the mix, and they're all juniors. We talked about Ethan Griffith already. He's a middle infield guy that, just pitched really for us last year. Probably one of the quietest kids I've ever coached in my life. But but we knew exactly what we were going to get day in and day out for him. He wasn't going to say a word, but he was going to go out and get the job done for us. So we're excited to see if he can do that in the middle infield as well. Awesome. And two other guys, Jacob Robinson, who was with us for a little bit last year, who, I think Jake could be special for us. He just hasn't been able to put together kind of a full season with us yet. He's had some injuries. He's had some other issues. He had some eye issues last year that we're hoping to get, kind of get past that. And hopefully he could be somebody there in the middle. And then
because he hit 240 in 12 plate appearances for you last year. So, I mean, it's not big, huge sample, but just that.
Yeah, and that was, again, then he had a little injury, so he was out for a little while. And then it was, we wanted to get him some at-bats, so he went down, played a little JV. So we're hoping for kind of a big year, a little bounce back year from him for sure.
Very good.
And another junior, Cooper Friend. Cooper was on the JV last year. He's a bigger kid for what I would say our middle infields look like the last year. We've kind of had some guys built like me out in the middle infield. Cooper's a big kid that could just look a little differently than maybe your average high school shortstop. So excited about him as well.
Very good. And your outfield pretty much patrolling like it was last year?
Yeah, so we returned 2 or 3 starters. Cohen Waldron's back in center. He started for us as a sophomore and moved to center last year, and just one of the more enjoyable kids to be around. He's a goofball. I don't know how it was to say it, and he'd be the first one to admit that. But he patrols center field as well as anybody. He's got a great arm. He'll pitch a little bit for us as well. He can touch 90 off the mound, and just, he's kind of working this offseason to kind of build up his pitching so that we could hopefully utilize that, because that would be a nice weapon to have as well.
And you got to love that. He's committed to St. Charles Community College. He hit 322, 21 runs, 16 RBIs. That's a lot of run production.
For sure. And he was, we kind of moved him around in the order early in the season last year. In fact, he started in the leadoff spot. Kind of finished the year as our 5 hitter. I could see him anywhere in the same boat from 1 to 5, just depending on how the rest of the lineup shakes out. But he's so versatile with, he's got some power. He can hit for contact. He can bunt a little bit. He can run a little bit. So he can kind of do a lot of different things with the bat on top of his, exemplary defense that he offers us.
And this last young man here, senior Drew Smith, he hit 302 for you, 4 doubles, 2 triples, a home run, 16 ribbies. Where is he going to fit into that mix?
So Drew was our starting third baseman last year. We see him in the same spot. Drew is just the ultimate kind of throwback dirt ball player. He just, whatever you need him to do, Drew's willing to do it. It's not always the prettiest when he does it, but he finds a way to get the job done. And he's kind of our vocal leader on the infield. He's our leader of that kind of infield group. And as a senior now, we're kind of hoping he takes that leadership role of not just the infield group of everybody. He's a football player. Was the center on the football team, so that tells you what kind of toughness he has. But yeah, just a great teammate. In fact, I got a quick story about him. Last year during tryouts, it was his turn to throw. We were throwing live against hitters, and he goes out, throws a couple warm-up pitches, comes jogging off. He pukes in the grass in foul territory. Said, "Are you all right?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm good to go." He jogs back out and strikes out the side on the mound. It's like, you know what? Give me 9 guys like him in a lineup every single day and see what happens. So sorry to embarrass you, Drew, but yeah, great. That's Drew to a T. You know what? I'm good now. I'm going to go play and see what I can do to help us win.
I just needed a minute.
He needed a minute. He got it. He went back out, and it was like, okay, Drew's ready to go.
I love that. That's awesome. Offensively, you got some guys that are returning to put up really good numbers. It looks like you look pretty solid here, Coach. I mean, just looking at it on paper, of course, it's always preseason looking at paper. But you've got all 3 phases of the game right there for you.
We do. We're excited about our group. And here it is, middle of January. We're still, 6 weeks away or so from starting, and you never know what's going to happen. But I like this group going into a season. We've got a lot of veterans, a lot of guys that have been around for, last year and even the year before. And we like our mix of kids, our younger kids that are coming up. Who knows what's going to happen, but I do know this group likes to compete, and we're going to go out and we'll give our best shot at every single opponent that we have. And, hopefully you come out on top a few more times than not.
And, looking at this with just starting with the GAC, looking at the conference, I mean, the only other team that I've seen so far right now that's got that mix that you have is Zumwalt South.
Yeah, South's going to be tough again, and I think we could probably talk about each team as we go, but Coach Friedel does a great job, and obviously I don't know how many kids they're returning, but when you return Cox and Hinkie on the mound, their catcher, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he's as good as anybody.
Mendel.
Connor, right?
Yeah,
Connor good as, and they've got some other pieces and some kids that have been, this will be their third year starting, so they're always going to be a tough out.
And I think that's the thing to me. I'm looking at your group here and that group, and I think you guys are going to be battling it out towards the end there for that scenario.
Yeah, I
like what I see here. I think I think you got a good opportunity.
We would like to be in that spot, but certainly don't want to sell any of everybody.
No,
Washington,
no.
I know had a good senior group last year, and Coach Goff does a great job. North has I know a couple good arms that are going to be tough to beat in conference play. Coach Hill always does a good job at East.
Yeah.
Those, that terms of a program and a culture, like that's a tough team to beat just because of who they are. And that's a credit to him and his staff. Coach Louts, yeah. I mean,
Loutsy.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm talking, and a whole, with those, with Edgar Hosack and Lassiter, you talk about three guys that have, that have played some high level baseball. Every Tuesday, Wednesday for that 6 weeks or 5 weeks, I guess it is tough. You're going to get two quality arms back to back, and it's just going to be about who's going to pitch it a little better, who's going to play a little cleaner defense. And
I think we got you guys scheduled for that South game at their house on that Tuesday. I think it's the second week.
Well, hopefully we actually get over there. We don't ever get to go over to South. I feel like it always rains, and our field's ready, and theirs is not, and so. I think we've only played over there once in like the last 6 or 7 years.
Right?
Just it's kind of worked out. It's been crazy. So I'm sure they'd like to play us at home for once.
Yeah. April, it's that early April. You never know.
You never know.
It's a mixed bag.
You never know.
So we're hoping that because I think that'll be a great matchup. Looking at Holman and a Cox matchup. That's a dandy.
And that's the other thing too. With our, I'd say our top three, like. We don't know what 1 week's going to look different than the next.
Could be, right?
Those three guys, and what I'll give those three guys credit, they're all competitors, and they're going to try to one up each other, and they're going to want the ball on Tuesday, or they're going to want the ball on Wednesday.
Because you're still looking at, Holman's coming back from the rehab, right, and still getting himself back, and I'm sure he's ready. He wants to get out.
For sure.
But you're always looking at those things, see who's going to take the ball,
right. And unfortunately, there's injuries that do occur over the course of the season, and you have to plan for them, but you don't want to plan for them, and so you never know what we look like on March 15th. Might not be the same team, that's April 15th by the time you're midway through conference. But with the depth that we have, we hope that we can overcome any kind of injury if it were to happen. Knocking on wood here.
And you guys you'll probably still be in that Class 6. Bubble.
We'll definitely be 6. Our enrollment's still climbing. We're
okay.
I think we might be the biggest Wentzville school now out of the 4 in terms of enrollment.
Really?
I think we just passed Timberland. So we are actually moving to the South next year. Us and Timberland are flip flopping.
Yeah.
That is just we're going to go from one tough conference to the next, and that's for a later date. That's down the road.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next year. When we
I think I would imagine our district would stay pretty similar between Howell, West, North, Timberland, Troy.
Yeah.
Who else? Howell Central. I would imagine there's probably not going to be too many changes with that, and that's just that's you win that you've had a heck of a week to knock off 3 quality teams to win that. So that's always the goal, but. It's never easy.
That District 4 is brutal, man. It just, and I believe that's what it is.
Yeah, I think that's what it was last year.
And, that's high-level baseball. But I think you guys, if the pitching, I think you have a good run in you there.
Yeah, and that's going to be our goal is to find a way to get these kids to be ready from the beginning. And navigate, a tough schedule kind of throughout the year and play a lot of baseball in a short period of time. And hopefully the weather cooperates and, we don't have to have too many 6 a.m. tarp duties of pulling that tarp or putting the tarp on and trying to save a game. But if that's what it takes to play, you know, our kids do a good job of getting out there.
You guys, is anybody, you know, I know that the big deal now is moving to turf. What's the outlook?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything from the district. You know, it would be so nice to have.
Yeah.
You know, from when we play in Missouri, the spring weather. Now, there's also something to be said about a nice grass infield, and you know, so there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
But the turf would be nice, and I think even more so practice-wise, just to be able to, hey, it rained during the day, there's no game today, but we can still get out there and get our work in and not have to be in the outfield grass or just in the cage.
One of the things that Coach Montgomery told me last year when we were chatting at the state championships, they got a turf field at Festus.
Yeah, we played down there last year.
Yeah. And he said it made all the difference in the world, the ability to practice early and be able to get out on the field and do that. He said the dynamics of everything really changed.
Yeah.
And you know, I think with baseball in this area, that is the difficulty, isn't it?
For sure. And there's so many pros to it. You know, we joked after playing Festus, you know, we went down there early in the season, played a doubleheader. It was cold, it was miserable. And we get done, both teams, you know, did their little talk afterwards. We got our dugout cleaned up. We're loading on the bus, and Festus was gone. I mean, there's no field, you know, there's no field maintenance. You don't have to drag. You don't have to. I'm like, they were the home team and beat us out of there. I'm like, how nice would that be not to have to sit around and, you know, watch kids fill in the mound and get tarps on and all that extra stuff. It's like, hey, we got to put the helmets away. You put the ball buckets away, and let's get the heck out of here.
Time to go home.
Yeah,
see the wife,
absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's fantastic. I'm hoping at some point, you know, that those things not big, and I just want to see more games.
Yep.
You know, that's it. And I understand the cost, and I understand it's expensive and all those things. I really do. But I think you know, I'm looking at it from selfish reasons, I guess.
Well, and I think now, you know, it kind of started with a handful of the private schools, but now, you know, Troy has it, Washington has it. So you got a couple teams in the GAC that are starting to get it. I think it's tough when you have a district of 4 schools.
It
you know,
is.
That's
right.
obviously an added cost to taxpayers. But in the long run, I think baseball and softball coaches would be more than happy to have that just available again. Just practice. You're not missing games. There's just so many pros and positive things that would come out of it.
And I just think the level of baseball that's being played right now in this state across the board, especially I think the GAC, as you mentioned, you know, not only just in the South, but the Central, and then, you know, we got, I think, a heck of a game. You know, the North is not a walk in the park.
No, not at all.
There's some really good baseball teams, you know, and they're Class 4 schools, but North Point, of course, is, you know.
Yeah, they're probably, I don't know, they might be on the border this year of 4 or 5. I don't quite know what their enrollment is.
I know they were Class 5 last year.
Yeah, well then, yeah, I would imagine they'll stay, and I mean, who knows? In the next couple of years, they'll probably be a Class 6 school as well, as much as that area is growing and developing. Huh?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's on the rise. I think the GAC is just, there's just going to be some fun baseball.
Definitely.
Fun baseball. Coach, always a pleasure, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Absolutely. Always enjoy coming out and talking ball.
And, you know, we're going to be out. We'll see if nothing else, you know, hopefully it doesn't rain, you know, but then we'll also see you at the GAC Classic.
Perfect. We're looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Hey, folks, Coach Mark Reeder, Liberty High School, the Eagles, team to watch here. I think they're going to do some damage. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Please, if you like what we're doing, take a moment. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Support us. We got our merch store. If you like some merchandise, that's how we support ourselves. We do appreciate that very much. Hit the dinger right there next to it, because that's, you know, everybody loves dingers, right?
Unless you're on the mound.
Unless you're on the mound. I agree. My son didn't like dingers.
Yeah.
That's true. But that gets you all your notifications for upcoming episodes such as this. Keeps you informed about what's going on around the area for baseball, especially the GAC. We love it. We appreciate you very much. Everybody have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, keep throwing strikes. And hitters, Coach, give them some advice.
Be ready to hit.
I like it. Right?
Yeah, let's keep it simple. Go in there with a plan and be ready to hit.
We'll see you all next time.